Today we'll talk about one of the funnest things there is to do with tuning a carburetor, and that's using an AFR gauge to get it done. I'm going to show you how I do it. Let's go. The really fun thing about using an AFR gauge is just seeing all the data live and understanding what the carburetor is seeing and what the actual results are of the tuning that you've given it or the input that you've given it. And I guess what I really enjoy about that is you get to see when actual events occur and when you make those changes in the tuning process, what actually happens. So if you're trying to evaluate things in a cruise mode or power mode or whatever it is, wide open throttle, and you make changes to the rod and jet, the step-up springs, whatever circuit you're trying to adjust at the time, you see those live. You see what the results of those changes are, and that's the really cool thing. Sometimes seat of the pants tuning is good. I mean, understandable that an AFR gauge is kind of expensive and you're not always going to have the ability to use one to tune one of these things, whether it's a Edelbrock, Holley, whatever. But there are a few things that we need to talk about first before we get out to the truck. Now, a majority of the time we're going to spend on this video today will be actually tuning on the GMC, so I'll show you the steps that we'll take to get it. This is back to the base calibration, so it is the way it comes from the factory, and we're going to start right from the beginning, and I'll show you exactly what happens on this 1905 when we put it on a little bit more than mild 350 crate engine from Blueprint. Now, it's like anything else. When you get down to tuning, the tuning process, everything else that supports that carburetor has to be working right. Now, let's talk about that really quickly because this is one of the topics that I've beat on over and over and over again. We've certainly talked about it quite a bit on every video that we've talked about when it's carburetors and tuning involved, and that's the fuel system and that's the ignition system. But the ignition system is probably the one that gets the most folks in trouble. Now, yes, the ignition system must be in good working order and all installed correctly, and you got the firing order correct for whatever the camshaft is, get all that, but timing is the key here. Not enough of it is what I see over and over and over again. I read or try to read every single comment that people leave here, and certainly I respond to every email that is sent on, questions on certain situations that they're in with their vehicle, and timing is certainly the one that everyone struggles with. So you've got to make sure you've got enough timing in it. Now, I will tell you that I always start around 12 to 14 degrees. That timing is a big, big factor here, and a lot of the times, that timing is what cures carburetor problems. Fuel system is the other one. You must have the right fuel system to deliver the clean fuel at the right time, the right amount, at the right pressure. Now, certainly Edelbrock carburetor is a little more sensitive to pressure, but Holleys certainly are too. They're not immune to it, and if you've got too little or too much, it's going to affect how either one of those types of carburetors run. So don't think that you're out of the loop just because you've got a Holley carburetor and you've got a Edelbrock fuel pump that's rated at 6 PSI and you shouldn't need to worry about it. Absolutely you do. So getting those two correct is very, very essential. Reading the spark plugs, get used to doing that. It's one of those little details that helps you understand where you're at. Now, the AFR gauge is nice because it'll tell you how things are acting in a moment in time. What reading a spark plug will do is it'll help you understand long-term what it's doing. So if you spend a lot of time idling and you set it at, the AFR where you're at, 13.5, or you want to lean it out really lean and go 14.0 somewhere in there, you can kind of see that on a spark plug, but really the long term is where you're going to get the benefit of reading a spark plug, and we just did a video on how to do that. So get used to doing that. It'll help you understand it, especially on the timing side. Looking at the ground strap on a spark plug will tell you exactly what the engine is seeing, and if it needs more timing, it's going to tell you. So if you think that's 6 degrees before top dead center on that little small block Chevy is perfect for you, the timing or the ground strap on there is going to tell you whether or not that's accurate or not. So once you have all those things sorted out, then you can begin the tuning process on anything, whether you do it seat of the pants or whether you do it with an AFR. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go out to the GMC truck and let's start tuning this carburetor for the truck with the AFR. Okay, now that we got the carburetor back on, we're ready to roll. So we get this thing warmed up, verify fuel pressure, make sure we got the idle mixture screws set correctly, get the idle speed dialed back in, and then we're ready to start rocking and rolling. Now, one thing I didn't mention when we talked about how we're going to do this, it is still best to follow the Edelbrock tuning chart when you're tuning one of these carburetors. There's no reason to try to figure out the math and, you know, what jet or what rod you should use on your own. Follow the tuning chart. It's there for your benefit. There's no reason to try to make it better or try to, you know, out-calculate the Edelbrock engineers when they did all those calculations and did all that testing for you. It's really one of the benefits of using and owning an Edelbrock carburetor on a street vehicle is you don't have to make those guesses. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the tuning chart exclusively as we make these changes. Now, we did a video, well, I don't know, 5 months ago, something like that, on how to tune a carburetor without an AFR. And what we did is we ran through and we kept a track of what changes we made, whether it was when it was the stock calibration and then what we did along the way. That way you can always go back. If you get to one of these steps and the temperature changes, or maybe you got a little over anxious with how you were setting the carburetor, how much fuel or what you took away from it, you can always go a step back. So it's always good to kind of write this down, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to start another page here for the GMC, and we'll mark it that we tuned it with the AFR, and that way we can always go back to it. If anything comes in question as to why it's running the way it's running, we can always take a look, see what we did. We know what step-up springs are in it. We know what metering rods and jets are in it. There's no confusion in it. So that's what we're going to do. Now we got all that sorted out. Let me get this thing warmed up. We'll verify timing. We'll verify all the other little details, and we'll get to take it for a test drive. All right, we're good and warmed up. We're ready to go. So let me put the air cleaner back on it and we'll start. First little test drive there. A couple of little things. So this is the nice thing about the AFR. It's a little warmer than what it was before, so I may not have had it completely up to operating temperature the way it should be, but it's got a little too much fuel at idle. I can correct that really easy. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more fuel in the cruise mode. So remember, on the calibration chart here, you've got power mode and you've got cruise mode, and right now we're in the base calibration. So I think what we want to do is I want to richen it up a little bit in the cruise mode, which is familiar. I think we did that the last time. So I think what I'm going to do is it seems to be okay in the power mode. We're going to verify that again after we make the change, but I think I'm going to go up to 11. So let me get all that written down in my book so I know where we're at, where we started, and then I'm going to make this change to 11, which happens to be number 11. Tells us that we're going to make a rod and jet change. They give you the part number on both. So let me get the carburetor knocked off here, or torn down a little bit, get the air horn assembly off, make those changes, and then we'll go drive it and see where we're at. All right, we made a rod and jet change. Took a little bit of fuel out of it. I think I need to take a little bit more. Kind of cool when I was sitting here with the top of the carburetor off. Local police officer stopped by and make sure I was okay. Thought that was kind of cool. But they certainly see me out in this truck quite a bit, I think. So, but kind of a fun deal. So anyway, now we got that done. I'm on a pretty decent road here as far as mile per hour, so there's not a lot of traffic on it, and it's a 55 mile per hour road. So the good thing is I can get up to speed pretty easily, and yeah, I'll just verify that everything's good. Actually, I think here comes our police officer right there. Yeah. we're in good shape. I need to get the idle speed down a little bit. We're a little too high, so I'll go knock that down a little bit, and then yeah, we should be able to good to go. So again, need to write down where we're at on the tuning chart, and that way we'll know as we start looking at these readings where it's affecting us. Still a little too lean, going 49 miles per hour. So we'll verify that. Too lean, way too lean. So we know in the power mode we need to add fuel. Acceptable. That's not bad. That is. So we're in cruise mode, going from 50 through 53 miles per hour. And that is too lean for me. So I want closer to about 13.5, 13.8, somewhere in there. So now we know we need to take another step, add a little bit more in the cruise mode. And the power mode didn't seem to be too bad, so completely off the gas. You see how it pegs all the way out, rich. And as I roll into the gas, that's just way too lean for me, so. All right, another adjustment coming up. All right, we've made a few changes here. I'm not sure how much I like it. I've added some secondary fuel, and I moved up to number 11 on the tuning chart. If you look, we're up here, and I think what I want to do is take some fuel, probably, I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation. I don't know if I want to. I almost feel like I'm pretty dialed in. Where, if you can see, idle fuel's probably about where I want it. I don't know if I want to go much more than that. I'll probably take a little speed out of it, drop it down a little bit, but we're kind of where I want to be with it. So I'm just going to drive it around for a while. Here's where the challenge is. Watching the AFR and figuring out, you know, are you where you want to be, but, you know, putting it through enough situations. You know, if this road that I like to tune on or like to drive on gives me a good, you know, good amount of driving. There's not a lot of traffic on it usually, and I can get it around, you know, I can drive it anywhere from 10, 15, 20 miles per hour, you know, just kind of creep along, and I can cruise it at 35, 45 if I want to. If I want to get up around 55, I can do that. And then, you know, usually add a little bit, you know, I can drive a little bit more aggressively I want for short periods of time. And, you know, I can get a good feeling for where it is. But honestly, where I'm at right now, it's not that bad. I could continue to play around with it and add or take away a little bit of fuel here and there. But perfectly honest, I'm not that upset where it's at right now. It drives good. It doesn't have any stumble anywhere. Off idle is really good. It cruises really well. So let's take it for another couple of, you know, miles of driving and see where we're at. But so far, I'm not upset with where we're at. So you know, the AFR is telling me it's good. I will probably, at some point in time in the next day or two, read the plugs. Yeah, it's fun to drive, and it's got good acceleration. I did add some secondary fuel to it. Added a stage. I don't know if that was completely necessary, but it certainly likes it a lot. So yeah, I'm having fun driving this thing. So that's all that really matters, is you get what you want out of it. I'm getting a little lean here on idle fuel, but that's not that bad really. So I'm not upset with that. So I'm gonna go drive it just because it's a lot of fun, and yeah, I'll take you along and show you some footage. It's pretty good for cruise. Yeah, I'm gonna turn around and take a picture of that. I'll put that on Instagram. Little on the rich side, but not too bad. Again, the plugs will tell us where we're at. It's a little too much fuel at wide open throttle. I think I may take some of that out of there, but it's not as bad as I want. It's not as bad as I thought. It's not as bad as it could be, I guess. But that cruise AFR is not bad. A little lean right now. I think the step-up springs are opening up right there. With a look, my cruise vacuum is around 12 maybe. Yeah, 12 or so. Which means at that AFR, springs are open, so it's metering full fuel through the secondary, or the primary circuit, primary boosters. So here's where you can play with it a little. You can start playing with step-up springs if you want, as long as it doesn't affect too much. As long as it doesn't affect too much, you know, how it performs off idle, that transition between, you know, cruising at, you know, 30, 35 miles per hour, rolling into it, you know, getting onto the highway, whatever the case may be. As long as it doesn't affect that too much, it's not a really bad place to be. So right there is where you can start to play with it. Now right now I'm about 18, rolling into some fuel, about 8. You can see how it affects on the AFR when I back off and just start to cruise it. AFR settles in. We're right now around 13 on the vacuum gauge. Again, it's a really good tuning tool to have with you, is AFR and vacuum at the same time, because you can kind of determine where you're at. We're putting along at 60 miles per hour right now. Drop it down to 12, 11, 10. And then as it starts to stabilize itself back out, 65 miles per hour. Bouncing a little all over the place, but vacuum's still around 12 or 13. Now we stabilize ourselves out 60 miles an hour, 62. That's why I said you can't really look at it in you know, if you looked, we were down 10, you know, 10, 11 on the AFR, which is way too rich. And then you can look and see where we're, you know, spiking up there pretty aggressively. About 1,800, 1,900 RPM. TAC's telling me the same thing on the TAC. It's telling me the same thing because AFR's tied into the TAC as well. Vacuum's dropped a little bit. Or under load. Bonus points if you know where I'm at right now. If not, that'll give it up to you. The world headquarters of Edelbrock Group. So I think what I'm going to do is, since this thing is running so well, and again, this is just all part of the process, I think I'm going to add a little bit more timing to it. Now, it was at 14 when we started this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump that up to 16. So I always carry all those tools with me. So I've got the timing light. I'm going to go ahead and get that out and untangle that mess, and then throw a little bit more timing in it and continue to drive it and just see where it's at. Again, that's just all part of the process here, is as you make tuning changes, ignition timing goes hand in hand with carburetor tuning. They aren't done separately. So now that we think we got it dialed in, it's got a little too much fuel for me, but that's okay. I'd rather be just a little rich than a little lean. So let's add some more timing, see if it likes it. So I added a little bit more timing to it, played with the idle mixture just a hair, leaned it out just a touch. I think I don't like that. I'll probably drop a little bit out of there, but let me see what it looks like in gear. Yeah, it's a touch too lean. I'll add some more fuel to it, but yeah. I'll add some more fuel, see what it likes, but yeah, a little bit more timing is not a bad thing, and I'll put some more fuel back in there. I guess I got a little ambitious with it, but when you change timing, you're gonna change fueling. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and throw a little bit more fuel at the idle mixture, and yeah, we'll kind of go from there. But things are going well with the AFR tuning. We're about dialed in with it. So. Let's do that, and then let's keep driving. She likes a little bit more timing, so when I added the fuel, it wanted a little bit more time to burn it, so adding a little bit more wasn't a bad thing. Started good, started easy. It's a hot engine, so I'm not worried about that. But 58 miles per hour, speeding a little bit. Good AFR on the cruise, so I kind of know what this engine generally likes for timing, but it's okay to play with it. So I think I'm right around 16 right now. I don't know that I'll throw 18 in it. It didn't seem to like it on a hot start, but certainly try. You know, I've added a little bit more fuel to it. It's kind of starting to stabilize a little bit. So again, you don't want to judge it immediately when you come to that stop. It needs time to, you know, let the fuel go through the system, and right now we're pretty stable at 13.5-ish. So it's kind of an interesting deal to watch that, because you can kind of see when those things occur. Now we're still pretty much on the primary booster. As I roll into the throttle, you can see where it dropped. Secondary booster just opened up. Now we're adding too much fuel, so letting off the throttle, but you can see exactly when that booster opened up and was enough for that booster to start metering fuel. So we're a little too rich there, but it runs well enough that I think I'm okay with it being a little too rich. Well, that pretty much covers it. There's not really, you know, I'd love to tell you it's a lot more exciting and dramatic, but really the AFR is just there and designed to give you so much information immediately. So any changes that you make, whether it's a step-up spring rod, jet, you know, adjusting the AVS when you want it to come in, you will see that on the AFR, and it's just a really great tuning tool. Now, this truck, without it, ran good. I mean, I've tuned this carburetor enough to know kind of what it wants. So I'm a little trying to, you know, do it in steps that I kind of knew that where it was going to head up or end up anyway. But the nice thing about the AFR is it gives you that feedback. So, you know, you can have a car or truck that's running really, really well, but you don't know what's left on it without understanding exactly how the engine is burning fuel and air, and you know, whether it's a little too rich condition. You can always read the plugs, which I'm going to do on this one anyway, just to verify that we're in good shape. Knowing exactly the demand of what the engine is using is such an invaluable tool. So I get it, I understand it. AFRs are very expensive. The one I use is extremely expensive, but I like having that wireless option where I can look at AFR under hood when I'm tuning, but certainly you can always run in and out of the, you know, the cab of the truck or the car, whatever you're working on, and verify all that. But yeah, it's just such a great tool, and really the technology these days is so much fun where, you know, playing with these cars or trucks, you know, 20, 30 years ago, you know, without that technology, it was a little bit more difficult to do it all. So anyway, I hope you guys got something out of it. Again, you'll start to learn, you know, those little functions of the carburetor and how they're operating, and, you know, when they start to pull in and when they start adding fuel or taking it away. It's just such a really fun thing to watch AFR, because you can see those actions occurring live. And again, you'll know exactly what the changes that you make, if they were the proper ones, or if you need to make other changes. So if you got any questions on this one, don't hesitate, leave them down below. I love answering them. I love helping you through it. And yeah, if you want to do it by an AFR, they are the greatest tuning tool I think that's probably out there. So anyway, we'll catch you guys on the next one. We'll see you.